Well, sorry we started a little bit late. Let's go ahead and get started. If you'd stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If you'll remain standing, we've got prayer with Pastor Richard Haley from Riverside Baptist Church.
Shall we bow? Our gracious Lord and Heavenly Father, we come today thanking you for the opportunity we have to gather together. We pray, Lord, that you'd bless all the different things on the agenda today, Lord, and be with each one that is here. May your presence be sensed and felt, and may, Lord, thy will be done. We ask it all in the name of Jesus, our Lord and Savior. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Appreciate it. I know we've got a lot of people here that want to make public comment today, so it may be a little bit limited time constraint. There's quite a few here to speak. We'll try to work through that. Before we do, though, we have 3 proclamations that we want to share this morning. And probably already you realize that we have the HEC Grill Championships here with us. Thank you for being here this morning. Thank you for your great record. And, you know, I got to tell you something this morning. I wasn't sure what happened. I walked off and went in to go, on a personal note, to go to the shower when the time expired. And I just want to see the hand whoever made the 3 free throws. That was awesome. Thank you very much. I'm going to read this, then I'll have you come up front probably. I'm sure Sandra would like to get some pictures. We'll present this to you. We won't keep you too long this morning. A proclamation of the Hutchinson Community College Blue Dragons Women's Basketball 2024 NJCAA Division I National Champions. Team Appreciation Day, April 10th, 2024. Whereas the top-seeded, national-ranked Hutchinson Community College Blue Dragons defeated the Northwest Florida State team 88-80 in overtime in a title game in Casper, Wyoming on Monday, April 1st, 2024, to earn their first national championship. And whereas the Blue Dragons finished the season with a perfect record of 37-0 in their 50th season, and whereas the following coaches and players make up the 2023 and 24 national championship team: head coach John Onches, assistant coach Phil Anderson, assistant coach Travis Kirk, freshman guard Caitlin Norris, freshman guard, I assume it's Jada Pleasant, freshman guard Kiki Smith, freshman forward Haley Jackson, freshman forward Maddie Dennison, sophomore guard Peyton Mosley, sophomore guard Journey Armstead, sophomore guard Acastasia, okay, I'm sorry. Muggeridge, sophomore guard Brian McCormick, sophomore forward Monet Duffy, I think it is, sophomore forward Bree. And whereas the following individuals received special national championship tournament accolades: head coach John Onches, coach of the tournament; freshman Kiki Smith, the tournament's most valuable player; and freshman Haley Jackson, all-tournament team; sophomore Journey, the all-tournament team. And furthermore, we call upon all citizens of Reno County, Kansas, to observe April 10th, 2024 as the HCC Women's Basketball Team Appreciation Day, to honor the players, coaches, and support staff that helped the team go undefeated for the year and bring home a national championship to Reno County this day, and witness hereunto set into the hands and cause the seal of Reno County to be affixed on the day of 10th of April, April 2024. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's the only chance an old guy like you.
Around here, I'm sure that she'll tell you where to stand.
They might be taller than all of us.
Yeah, they're gonna be taller than all of us. We'll have to be in the row.
Sandra does connect with you.
Oh,
She told me that. I was like,
I won't do that.
thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Look right here. Steve, get in there, please.
Oh, if you say so.
Billy? Thank you. There you go. Apologize, one more. Thank you. Thanks for coming.
So we'll let them make their way out. We got two more proclamations to do this morning before we get started. How about giving the posting? On the second one, a proclamation, whereas the Early Childhood Council and other local organizations, in conjunction with the National Association for the Education of Young Children, are celebrating the week of young children, or young child, April 15th, through the 20th, 2024. And whereas these organizations are working to improve early learning opportunities which are crucial to the growth and development of young children and building better futures for everyone in Reno County. And whereas all young children and their families across the county and in Reno County deserve access to high-quality education and care, and whereas in recognition and support the people and programs and policies that are committed to high-quality early education as the right choice for kids, the week of the young child, and encourage all citizens to work to make good investment in early childhood in Reno County, Kansas, this day of the 10th of April, 2024. Ladies, do you have anything that you'd like to say? Or?
For that week, there will be lots of activities going on in the community that's free for families and young children, so
Okay.
all over the place.
All right, thank you.
And then we're with the other one as well, if you want to.
You want to do both of them at the same time?
Sure.
Okay, good.
One
Okay, there's
stop
a
shop.
second proclamation here. I wasn't sure whether you was with that one or not.
Yes.
Another proclamation, whereas our children are the most valuable resource and will shape the future of Reno County, and whereas childhood trauma, including abuse, neglect, is a serious problem affecting every segment of our community, and finding solutions require input and action from everyone, and whereas childhood trauma can have long-term psychological, emotional, and physical effects that have lasting consequences for victims of abuse, and whereas protective factors are conditions that reduce or eliminate risk and promote the social, emotional, and developmental well-being of children, and whereas effective child abuse prevention activities succeed because the partnerships created between child welfare professionals, education, health, community, faith-based organizations, business, law enforcement agencies, and families. And whereas communities must make every effort to promote programs and activities that build strong children and families. And whereas we acknowledge that we must work together as a community in partnership to build awareness about child abuse and to contribute to promote the social, emotional well-being of children and families in a safe, stable, and nurturing environment. And whereas prevention remains the best defense for children and families. Now, therefore, we, the Board of County Commissioners of Reno County, do hereby proclaim the month of April 24th to be National Child Abuse Prevention Month, and urge all citizens to recognize this month to be dedicating ourselves to the task of improving the quality of life for children and families. And witness hereof to set hands and cause the seal of Reno County, Kansas to be affixed this 10th day of April of 2024.
And we're with the Kansas Children's Service League, Healthy Families Kansas Home Visiting Program, but there's lots of organizations in this community that work to prevent child abuse and neglect. It takes a village to raise a family, and you guys are part of that village, so we want to thank you for that too.
Okay. Appreciate all your hard work.
Thank you. My name's Eva Patterson.
Yes.
Haley Ross.
All right.
Thank
you, ladies. You want them up? All right. Gentlemen. We'll move into number 4 on the agenda item, public comment. How many people are here for public comment? We have a bunch this morning. I did not get, I know I've got some here on a list that we need to work through first of all, and then if we have some additional public comment, we'll look at that. But I have one that wants to make public comment first, Miriam Kitson. If you'd like to come forward, state your name and where you live. And
My name is Miriam Khan Kitson. I live at 7 Sunflower Avenue, Hutchinson, Kansas, 67502. I'm also representing Hutchin Harmony today. Hutch and Harmony is committed to ensuring civil and human rights of all people, regardless of race, gender, sex, religion, national origin, legal status, age, disability, marital status, gender identity, sexual orientation, veteran status, hairstyle, or attire associated with identity, documented status, economic class, incarcerated status, health condition, or any other disempowered group status. That is why we are deeply concerned with the most recent policy language update that the Reno County Board of Commission meeting on March 27 took. In this case, the community corrections policy was amended to deny the necessity of trainings related to DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and to include language designed to protect, quote, at the discretion of the county commissioners, end quote, anyone who feels hurt by such efforts, minimizing those efforts, and to equate their misunderstandings of, quote, woke, end quote, critical race theory. I'm going to start with establishing an understanding of what DEI is. Diversity relates to our beautiful differences. Every difference of a protected class, not just difference of race, difference of age, of gender, all of those differences. To include others from different social backgrounds in an effort to ensure that all communities are being represented is vital to the health of a multicultural democracy in which we live. Equity, as opposed to equality, considers individual needs. It is understood that every person may need to access different resources depending on circumstances to reach the same goal. Equality seeks to treat everyone the same despite their circumstances. Everyone receives the same resources and opportunities that were created for a particular group. Equality is not enough. Inclusion seeks to provide equal access and opportunity to traditionally and historically disempowered populations of people who would otherwise be excluded. These matters are also intersectional in that not only might one person belong to multiple disempowered groups, but also that lack or loss of human or civil rights for one group weakens the claim upon those rights for any group. We call upon you to rescind the policy amendment in question. On a personal note, I'd like to say that the language used by the board when amending this policy only revealed how clearly these gentlemen could benefit from such a training. The change in this language is very much akin to a child on a student council trying to ban math after getting a poor grade. It is ignorant, poor-sighted, and does not create a collaborative, considerate community that we all want to live in. Thank you.
Ma'am, if I may, so there are 8 different things outlined in that thing. I mean, which specific line items did you have an issue with? I mean, did you have an issue with the fact that we think that we shouldn't teach that men are better than women, or that we shouldn't, that we don't think that perhaps race should be we should teach one race is inherently superior or inferior to another? I mean, what specific light items were you interested in?
If you'd like to come into Hutch and Harmony, we'd be happy to educate you on those items. But as they've mentioned that there's only a limited amount of time for comments, I'm going to pass it on to my fellow.
So there's nothing specific. I mean, I'm happy. I'm happy if the board is okay to entertain some specifics, because there was nothing in that proposal that was objectionable.
Let's get through public comment, John.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Chair, I had 2 emails on this week, and I emailed Randy just for clarification, because I heard some things in the comments that I don't think are accurate on what our policy was. I don't know if we could, Randy, if you want to just reiterate what the commission's position was on this policy from your understanding, just so we can set the stage here, because some of the stuff is not what I voted on last week that I heard here.
Just for, I guess, Commissioner Friesen, the email that you had sent me, and then I replied back with the bullet points that Commissioner Weitzel had asked to put into the community corrections policy, kind of states, it listed it, I think the intent, what I got from the commission, the intent was to promote equality, but not using the words diversity, equity, and inclusion as DEI, versus kind of getting in more detail what that meant to you guys. of not treating anyone different based on their race, their age, their religion, or that's kind of,
Well,
I don't have that email in front
I
of
can
me.
just read what I responded back after I got your email, and it was, bottom line, from my understanding, that this policy is intended, we adopted a policy that's intended to train our correction officers about equity and inclusion. And the change, which I think has stirred this conversation, was only clarifying the language and keeping it on topic to that issue and not kind of veering off into more negative approaches to that policy. I mean, was that where we were headed? Because I think we were adopting a diversity and equity policy. That's what we did, right?
Well, I mean, the state policy basically has that in it. We didn't change the policy as such. We just didn't want it to be, as I understand, preferential in hiring or discriminating employees, but just purely, as you stated, I think, Commissioner
We
Friesen,
definitely
changing
didn't
the language of what
rescind or
those-
remove. We added new policy related to diversity and inclusion,
Yeah.
right?
You adopted the policy the state asked you to adopt.
Yeah.
So you didn't take anything away that the state had asked you to do.
That's right. Natasha? Is here that wants to speak. Go ahead. State your name and address, if you would, for the record.
My name is Natasha Russell. I live at 8 South Nelson in Hutchinson, 67501. To build upon the comments of my colleague with Hutchin Harmony, I'm going to address the issue of critical race theory, which was used as a basis for the addition of language to the policy, amending the policy. Critical race theory has been explained away as a belief that CRT is being used, quote, to teach the youth of America to hate America, end quote. However, if one were to look up the origination and use of the term CRT, one would find that it references a scholarly movement in law schools whose proponents, along with critical legal theorists, began during the 1970s to challenge the basic assumption of legal realism, that justice is blind, which had held sway since the 19th century in U.S. legal jurisprudence. It asks for an acknowledgement of social jurisprudence and the historicity of the intersection of law and justice with race as a means to analyze U.S. case law, which is itself a constant critique of legislation. Now, understandably, the extent of exposure to these ideas in American public schools is only found perhaps in civics classes, where we are limited to learning of the three branches, executive, legislative, and judicial, which are necessary to provide checks and balances for democratic governance. While it may be reasonable then to conclude that legal proponents of critical race theory might wish to balance legislation with a racial check on the grounds of historical reality, it is unreasonable to assert that any critical race theorist wishes to teach anyone to hate anything. We are not critical race theorists because we are not law students, lawyers, judges, law scholars, nor professors who need to draw upon such analysis for the purpose of explicating our legal system. We are people who stand together against all the acts of racism and discrimination that have incontrovertibly been built into the foundation of this country. We say we all strive to be full members of Reno County, a welcoming community filled with opportunities for all. However, our Reno County commissioners, as elected paid officials, cannot be allowed to ignore the inequities that exist for minority communities and must not be allowed to prevent the eradication of such discrimination. In order for us to come together, we must root out this institutionalized racism, which serves to uphold an actual hateful ideology called white supremacy. The existence of disadvantages, whether purposefully placed or traditionally upheld, that minority communities face in day-to-day life through social, emotional, political, economic, legal, and health-related systems must be addressed and solved, not ignored and silenced. The disingenuous attempt to pretend that someone or anyone would or could suffer harm by virtue of having any of these facts pointed out, discussed, or changed is nothing short of an outrage in itself. The only question we'd like to hear you answer is, who provided you, Mr. Whitesell, with the list of so-called protections which you successfully bullied the rest of the commission into passing? We call upon the rest of you to rescind the unnecessary policy amendment in question.
Okay. Yeah, I sent the list to you. I mean, it might be a good idea to read it. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Natasha. Appreciate it.
Yeah, because what's being spoke about here is not what we voted on. So, I mean, I think it would be a good idea. I mean, it's up to you guys, but I think it'd be a good idea to actually read the list, because I think that would diffuse a lot of this.
So you have it with you?
We can all go back and watch the recording of the county commission meeting on March 27th
I would,
and see how you were talking and how you were presenting.
Ma'am, I'd like,
excusing.
ma'am, I would like to get through the rest of the public comments on this issue, if this is what these other two are, and then we can go back and readdress. And we have Mr. Regier here from the Community Corrections, and I think it would be a good thing for him to speak as well on this issue, as how this is applied and what it's going to look like. But I would like, before I read this, I'd like to hear other comment here, maybe just a little bit. Ryan, are you up next? I think it's Esmeralda. Is here? There, thank you. State your name and address, and try to keep your comments to a brief, at least 5 minutes if you can, so we don't go over that. We got
Esmeralda Tovar Mora, 1404 West 30th Avenue, Hutchinson, Kansas 67502. To build upon the comments of my colleagues with Hutch and Harmony, I'm going to speak to the importance of DEI training. The subversion of training that would uplift minority voices and discuss DEI, quote, in the hope that participation will remain optional for the next 40 years, end quote, represents a racial attitude, an effort to weaken democracy, and a will to oppose the diversity, justice, equity, inclusion, and freedom, which would bestow rights that have not always been granted to minority communities, but which have always been claimed by those who are of or who aspire to that class of property-owning white males whose discretion also determines accepted religious beliefs. Because we do not see any minority community represented in or by the Reno County Board of County Commissioners, we implore you to take a closer look at the harmful effects that your language amendment to the community corrections policy will have on Reno County, along with your clear lack of understanding of anything related to DEI initiatives, intentional access, and support to minority communities. This policy update, which passed in a unanimous vote, presents the case and proves the point as to why DEI training is so important. For example, it has been brought to our attention that there has been a pattern of language, jokes, and malice that target minority communities at your regular meetings, from some commissioners and complicity from others. Therefore, as an example of a topic for DEI training, we could learn to utilize the term undocumented person versus terms like illegals, criminal aliens, and aliens. And we could move the needle of mainstream perception to not automatically assume that brown people are undocumented or are criminals. Everyone has a right to due process and is presumed innocent until proven guilty. That is the standard. Additionally, asylum is not a magic word for anybody that is seeking it. It does not automatically grant citizenship status or even the right to work.
Are we, ma'am, can I stop you for a minute? Are
Of
we
course.
talking, which part are we talking about here? When you start talking about that comment, that's totally irrelevant to the policy change.
This is
That-
just
that
a
goes-
public
that
comment.
goes- I know, but that goes back to the superior thing, which
Right.
is not allowed to be spoke of today in this meeting. I understand what you're saying. It kind of goes along with that, but I mean,
It
it's.
goes hand in
You really
hand.
have two separate issues here.
Commissioner, I do believe she's just, yeah,
No, you're allowed to comment on
she's,
that, but it
Commissioner, I
is.
believe this is, I know, it's just public comment at this moment, so
Okay, okay.
it could be any topic.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
I will reiterate that asylum is not a magic word. It is the re-traumatization of lived experiences that have people who seek it scared for their lives while seeking refuge in a country that seems to want everyone to believe that they are nothing but criminals. People who have successfully been granted asylum have to go through a distinct, lengthy process. We would be happy to educate the Board of County Commissioners on that process as well. Hutch and Harmony has issued a public call to action to join us in attendance at Reno County Commission meetings the second, fourth, and fifth Wednesdays of every month at 9 a.m. in the Veterans Room of the Reno County Courthouse. In the meantime, we call upon you, the Board of County Commissioners, to rescind the policy amendment in question. And on a personal note, as the wife of someone who is serving our country in the Middle East, who is fighting for these rights, it is important to have this discussion that we cannot just dehumanize people at regular meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Esmeralda. I appreciate it. Brian, I think you're up next. If you'd like to state your name and your address and what you're here to speak about. Try to limit it again 5 minutes if you could, please.
Brian Davis, 11 South Main, Hutchinson, Kansas. I want to address the Commissioner's vote regarding the Community Corrections Policy amended on 3/27/2024. You voted 5-0 to exclude training related to diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts for Reno County. To put it simply, you really need to overturn your vote. I have been a personal advocate for diversity, equity, and inclusion for as long as I can remember, before DEI was a thing. Let me also state that as an older, straight, white, English-speaking male, I have never been disenfranchised by structural bias, ever. DEI does not mean special treatment. It is not code. It is not simply woke theory. It is not and does not push critical racial theory, critical gender theory, or critical queer theory, as some would have you believe. Do you even know what these critical theories are? Doubtful. Your vote showed a lack of understanding of DEI and exactly why DEI training is needed for Reno County's community correction policies. I am probably more woke than most other straight, white, English-speaking males, and yet I still have blind spots. There are many things I can only infer, imagine, and will never experience because of these identities. I believe each of you can identify with some of these same categories. Let's turn to the effects the language added to this policy and voted for will have on Reno County. Your vote sent the wrong message about Reno County. It sent a strong message to those living here, considering moving here, or doing business here and with Reno County. It sent the message that we don't want certain people here and that they are not welcomed here. Will banning it from other county policies be next on your biased action? It does not hurt anyone to be informed so they can make an educated decision on their own. The impact of not having DEI training can lead to not only having a bad reputation, but serious lawsuits. There is no defensible argument for not supporting DEI training, period. Your vote reflects a clear lack of education and understanding of DEI. We need to see active DEI initiatives in our county, not words and actions which counter this, as shown in your 5-0 vote to add the language in question. Supporting DEI training is one of the most strategic things you as a commission can do to support all things Reno County. Make no mistake, this is not only a county business decision, it should be a leadership imperative. How can anyone be held accountable for their work, actions, and behavior if they do not understand those issues personally and professionally, especially our elected officials? Your leadership message needs to be zero tolerance. Removing the added language is necessary for Reno County and beyond. This is about leadership, not about changing your beliefs and views. It's about leadership and moving the county forward. It's about the needs of the many outweighing the needs of the few or the one. I personally know of at least 2 commissioners who have openly expressed their disdain for DEI either in a commission meeting or as a personal business decision. Views and actions caused by lack of education or obstinate intolerance by judging or forming an opinion before having all the relevant facts. Leaders should never equivocate when it comes to DEI. By banning DEI training, you do not embrace perceived and existing attitudes and beliefs which disenfranchises our residents. Discussion and training around DEI should start with how your words and actions directly affect others. If DEI training is not included in the community corrections policy, then DEI realities go unacknowledged and cannot be addressed. As such, those realities and behaviors will persist and make their way into other county policy. Will banning DEI from other county policy be your next decision? It is critical that our county leadership reflects the place where people, all people, feel genuinely welcomed. Our community corrections policy, all county policies, must support DEI, including how that action impacts Black, Indigenous people of color, and lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, questioning, intersex, asexual individuals in our county. It also should include training related to the unhoused, the unemployed, the people with disabilities. It must support everyone. In the United States, we collectively believe in life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and that all people are created equal. Your 5-0 vote does not reflect this belief. Embrace diversity, achieve inclusion, and dismantle structures in the community corrections policy and all policy related to banning DEI in Reno County. You were elected to represent all the people in Reno County, not just some of them, or to force your own biases on the rest of the citizens of Reno County. Overturn your vote. It's the right thing to do.
I'm going to have him read that amendment to the policy we put in there. I might state that the policy is handed down and written from the state of Kansas to us. We have 2 options with a policy like that. It did not remove any of the language from the policy. And if we reject that policy, we reject the grants to be able to serve the community through the community corrections. We would lose our affiliation with them and the grant money to run that program, which does include inclusion for any person that comes to that. If you were over there on any given day with Mr. Ruggieri, you could probably walk through there and see that every, if you will want to say that way, every person, no matter who they are, come through that system a lot of times. And so there is inclusion in that program over there, but I'm going to let somebody read that, the amendment to the policy, and then I think I'm going to have Mr. Ruggieri speak just in brief here as to how that works, because I think there's some misconceptions here. Go ahead, Ron. And I have some further comment a little bit about myself personally. I would like to interject here.
There are 8 parts to this, and each one of these parts says the following, and I'm not going to read this on every one of them, but pay attention to the fact that no one shall require or make part of any course the following concepts. One race or sex is inherently superior to another race or sex. Another item 2 is no one, an individual by virtue of his or her race or sex is inherently racist, sexist, or oppressive, whether consciously or unconsciously. No one, an individual should be discriminated against or receive adverse treatment solely or partly because of his or her race or sex. That's no one shall require or make part of. One course that concept. Members of one race or sex cannot and should not attempt to treat others without respect to race or sex. Item 5 on here it goes one with no one shall require. An individual's moral character is necessarily determined by his or her race or sex. No one, again, an individual by virtue of his or her race or sex bears responsibility for actions committed in the past by other members of the same race or sex. No one. Any individual shall feel discomfort, guilt, anguish, or any other form of psychological distress on account of his or her race or sex. Or, finally, no one. Mediocrity or traits such as a hard work ethic are racist or sexist or were created by members of a particular race to oppress members of another race. Now, we're here to hear people, and if we want to know more, I think it's our commission's, and it's my personal opinion, it's our commissioner's responsibility, each one of us, to go on and create a conversation with those people that have a differing view. And I was born and reared prior to that hot button DEI. My grandmother taught us to respect everyone regardless and to create and be equal to each one of us. In fact, I remember many times this was before a lot of you remember here, but we were about a quarter to a half mile away from a railroad area, and she would feed whoever came up to her house. Didn't make any difference who they were. She would feed hobos. Didn't make any difference. So from that standpoint, from my viewpoint and my rearing, we're all created equal and should respect each other for that. So I won't cover any more except that, and just remind that it's not a debate here. It's an opportunity to hear people and to find out. That's why you give your name and address, so that if we can make contact with you or you can make contact with us.
Yeah. Thank you for reading that. Do you have any comment, Mr. Weisel?
Yeah, I mean, I would just like to say that, we didn't remove the diversity, equity, or inclusion from the language. We just specified those things or those concepts can't be taught. And if you think that one race or sex is inherently superior to another and want that to be taught to our criminal justice people, then, that I don't think is a good thing. So that's why we introduced those concepts. Critical theory was not mentioned anywhere in the policy.
And I think the policy, as we stated before, it's going to be taught and used as from the state handed down. We didn't alter that. We can't alter that. On a personal note for me, a little bit about me. I grew up with most of my best friends were not the same color as I am. And I don't feel the way that's being portrayed on me today. I want you to understand that. I was in the ministry for 12 years. And the last ministry that I was in, other than coming back here and doing pulpit supply and helping people, was in Western Kansas in Ulysses. And I was one of the only ones in Western Kansas that pastored a 50-50 church, 50% Anglo, 50% Hispanic. And I will tell you, on my board, I had probably more Hispanic people than I did the others. And still one of the dearest and most blessed friends in the Lord today is out there, and an absolute true confidant. And I love him to death. And I just For me to be called a white supremacist and racist rubs me the wrong way because I am so far removed from that. In my heart, I have poured out money and help personally to help people. I know I have a pastor here in the room too that probably can attest to that. And that is so far removed from who I am and what I would try to do to anybody. And it is a constitution that gives everybody those God-given inalienable rights, and I agree with that. And I think they're given from God. And I think it's a country still, as you've stated over here, somebody did, that's husband's over there, and thank you for his service, that's over now serving us across the pond. And I appreciate that. And I dearly do appreciate the military, but I just want to state that I dearly want you to know that that is not who I am. We just seek to not give favor to those organizations or things because there shouldn't be preferential. Everybody that walks through the door of the community corrections ought to have the same advantage as everyone else. And I can tell you from listening in the 2 years I've almost been around listening to Mr. Regier that he is that kind of person. And I'm going to invite him, unless the board has other comment, to give brief comment up here. I know I've got Brother Haley here that needs to speak here in a little bit before he's got to go to a meeting, but Randy, would you like to come address some of this, if you wouldn't mind, please?
Mr. Chair, I would like to give Randy some cover here because he didn't introduce this policy.
No, he did not. You're
so
right.
This was our decision. So I think he should be allowed to speak on just how this came about and how he implements the policy. And he doesn't need to opine to a position on the policy.
I agree with that. Thank you. Appreciate that, Commissioner.
Good morning, Commissioners. Randy Regier, Director of Reno County Community Corrections. So if I understand correctly, you would just kind of like me to explain how we would apply this policy within our agency. Would it be accurate? Okay. Community corrections, our mission is to reduce recidivism using evidence-based practices and the interventions that we have available to us. We serve a very diverse population. Do we do it perfectly? Absolutely not. What we want to do is we want to make sure that we treat people fairly. As was stated earlier with equity, we have a very diverse population that we supervise. People need different things. We're going to do our best to determine what they need, what they want, and apply that within their case. So some people may not want certain things, and if they're not required by the court, we're not going to push those. If the court does order certain things, we're going to need to enforce court order. But our goal is to really help the person get where they want. That should be one of the initial conversations an officer has with someone that's assigned to their caseload, is really determining what they need and what they want to move forward. We supervise most of these people for a year to year and a half. And so our goal really is to find out what their goals are and how do we help them take that next step and make progress on that. So that's really what we're looking at. When we want to train officers, we want to make sure that they are treating people with respect, they're treating people fairly, that if one of the things that we're going to teach is that they need to advocate for their clients that they supervise to receive the services they need. Sometimes it is difficult for people to receive services. A lot of our people just have a lot of trouble. So if you say, hey, to be enrolled in this program, here's this stack of paperwork. Well, likely either we're going to need to help or we're going to have to find people to help with that. So that's why I say it's a very diverse thing. But what we want to do is we want to look at this individual, talk to them about what they feel like they need, what they believe they need, and try to do our best to help them make progress on that within the requirements of what the court's ordered. I mean, obviously some people don't really want what the court orders, so we'll try to work with them to find the balance there. So that's kind of what we're going to try to do, is we really want to just have people treat people fairly with respect, find out what they need, and try to help them achieve those goals. So that's kind of the quick summary, I'd say. But I'm happy to answer any other questions.
I've got a couple questions for you, Randy. I mean, do you feel like anything we amended affected your ability to implement the policy that was.
Can I review the list? I don't believe it does, but just so that I have it in front of me, so I don't speak out of turn there. I think I've passed the list on to someone.
Oh, I've got it here. Here, Randy. I laid it here. Ron, give it back. Thanks.
So, as previously stated, what we have here is a list of things that we should be training people on that comes down as a standard from the Kansas Department of Corrections, and then they want us to build our policy based on this. So we have in this policy, as from the Department of Corrections, the words that are in question here, equity, diversity, and inclusion, those were included. So we included those. Commissioner Whitesell had asked to have some additions. I don't believe that any of these things are things that we're going to try. I don't believe his additions were things that we were going to try to train on. Like he stated, one sex is inherently superior to another race or sex. We weren't going to do that. So that's why I say I don't think any of these on this list are going to impact how we're going to train people, because we would not want to do anything to encourage someone to treat someone unfairly.
Maybe this is for council or Randy, and I admit I don't know a lot about DEI training. Is this DEI training, or?
I think the training is about diversity, equity, and inclusion. So the training that Mr. Regier does, it is about treating everyone the same.
Okay.
I mean, it may be worth Esmeralda and,
There's no specific curriculum. There's no specific anything that's coming down from the state. This is just a simple list of things they want us to talk to people about.
Okay.
So as we train a new officer, or as we're talking to people and staffing cases throughout supervision, we want to make sure people are treated fairly.
Well, I'm just trying to get things connected here, because I've heard, we're subverting training, we're excluding training, we're banning DEI training. I'm not hearing that in what we changed. I mean, is staff on the same page there?
That's correct. There's still that training. There was just some extra language, but as Randy mentioned, it doesn't change how they were operating anyways, because they were already training on diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Okay. Well, I know all the other commissioners made comments. I don't know a lot about this. I'm happy to hear other viewpoints on it and learn more. I got 2 emails, responded to both, and provided similar feedback to what I am commenting today, that I don't think this is excluding or banning the important training of making sure everyone is treated equally. So if there's still disagreement on that, I personally am happy to visit and come out and understand. So I do appreciate all the comments today, and we'll certainly take those into consideration on my.
Ask him a question. Yeah. Yeah, you got a question for Mr. Regier, or?
So I just want to say thank you for reiterating that what Mr. Weitzel had passed unanimously won't actually do anything, but then why did it pass? Right, the question is the language that was added, those bullet points that were added to it, like you just stated, it won't do anything to DEI, which is a good thing. Thank you for that. But then why was that needed, right?
I think you make a fair point in that, it didn't do anything, and on one hand, we thought it didn't change the intent. On the other hand, you feel like it looks negatively on equity. So I mean, it's a fair point.
It just felt like it was empowering a tantrum, right? Like, if this passes, then we can do other things to pass things that would directly ban.
And I kind of took it as if it's not going to be a preferential thing that we look at, so that everybody's still going to be treated equal. And so And I think in any given commissioner that's up here has the ability to present something to the board that we rationally try to talk about, and we don't always pass everything. And either do or deny, and in this case, wasn't intrusive to the original language and the teaching, and that's what we felt like. And it just, in my opinion, unless I'm wrong, Mr. Weitzel, it just made sure it didn't make that a preferential agenda, but yet it was still recognized by the training that's in there, and so it didn't change anything.
And then a second point, I apologize. You stated that obviously you grew up in a pretty diverse upbringing.
I did.
But then the complicity of allowing Mr. Weitzel to dehumanize people, and it's not just you, just it feels like everybody up there is allowing words to be said about other people in our community. Like, I'm an immigrant myself. So I took that personally.
I understand, and understand that each person up here has the ability to speak what they want to speak.
Right.
They were voted in by their constituents, and they'll answer to their constituents for whatever they say.
He
And I
wasn't
may not
voted in.
necessarily agree with the comments. I may not necessarily, well, I know he wasn't, but I'm just saying, case example. And I may not necessarily agree with anything the other four might say, myself personally at times, and they may not agree with things that I say. And so please don't take some of those things as an absolute endorsement, because what you're speaking of is a totally separate issue that's going to come up a little bit later in the agenda today, those particular comments. And I would say this, there's laws on the books. I hire people every year. I've hired people. I've been in management since my early 20s. And I've hired and probably fired a lot of people, because you do that in management. But I've hired a lot of people and never give preference to anything related to any of the topics we're talking about here today. And never will. And even before all this came about, there has been laws on the books. There's I-9 forms. There's all kinds of things that keep us from giving preference and making sure, and any person that hires a person, if you're looking at that, and that does any background work at all, we'll find out if that person actually is somebody that can't be employable. And if they are, there's no preference in my eyes given to whoever gets hired. The person that's qualified for the job, it doesn't matter their nationality to me. They're going to get the job. In fact, I just hired a lady truck driver, first time I've ever done that. I'm thrilled to death. I think she's going to motivate the other men to work. So,
They tend to do that. They tend to do
I
that.
just want you to know that. That's a first for me, because I've never been able to pull it off. And I'm thrilled to death to have her.
And this was really, like, I want to reiterate that it's just scary that things that won't actually do anything pass, which will empower people to, in the future, which this was stated in the March 27th meeting, that things are coming down from the state. You are upholding things that are coming down from the state. And this was an effort because of those upholdings in the future. And the direct quotes are to not have this be a mandated training for the next 40 years. Like, that means something. If there's someone up there that opposes this, then that's one thing. But then to pass things that will only empower someone to do something and provide something with a little bit more backbone that might implement into actual trainings, that is why we are here.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Ma'am, if I may, was there anything in that list of 8 things that you objected to?
We can have another discussion.
So you won't
if
go on the
like.
record publicly, but you'll disparage me in front of people. So I mean,
I
just
have
answer
been
the
on the
question. Was there
record.
anything on those 8 things? You can't answer it, can you? Because there are things on there that you don't want.
There are, the things that are listed on there protect the people that look like you. That's all I'll say.
Which specific one? Give me one.
That's all I'll say.
That's what I thought.
I studied this hard before I even seconded the motion, okay? I looked at it hard because I didn't want it to interfere with anything. And the way I looked at it, if you were, that first sentence I read, do not require, do not do these. I looked at it as an enhancement to that, spelling out exactly why we don't want that to happen. That's the way I looked at it, right or wrong. That's the way I looked at it, as an enhancement to this, making sure that those were printed out there in black and white that do not allow that to happen. That's the way I looked at it.
Okay. Any further quick comment? thank you for all your comments. Thank you, Mr. Regier, for your comments as well. Did
Mr.
you have
Chair, I
something?
heard somebody else wanted to speak. I don't.
Who? Did,
I'm on the list.
are you on the list? Okay. Is it for this same topic?
Somewhat. Not
Wha-
really.
Not really. Can you hold your comment for just a little bit? I have somebody I have to work through. They've got an appointment in a meeting, but if,
I do have.
yeah, sure. Sure, but you need to, I mean, I just,
And I'm not on the list. Is that?
well, yeah, I'm going to have to limit. We've got another meeting following this one, and we've got several things to work through on the agenda.
Well, I'll make it quick.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Okay,
Thank you.
my name is Kate Ireland, and I need to give my address. Is that correct?
Yes, please.
Okay, 1300 East 33rd, apartment 804, Hutchinson, 67502. Okay, so I actually have a little bit of experience with law enforcement and training, and I am up here to encourage the law enforcement to embrace that there might be some systemic things going on that they need to be aware of. And critical race theory is the education on that. It's a history of how our systems have been made in the United States. And so when you have things coming down from the state, it's all part of that process, that system that's in place. And so I ask our correctional facility to learn about critical race theory and consider that maybe it does need to be in there because it addresses the systemic problems. That's all I wanted to say.
I appreciate it. In fact, it is actually in that inclusive language in there, I believe, is it not? In there stated. Randy, is that stated in there? The D?
And I think she's specifically speaking of the correctional facility, that'd be separate from us.
Yeah, okay,
So if you've had discussions with them, I can't speak
okay,
Let's just say training in general. We all need to know
okay.
about it.
All right, appreciate your comment. Who else is here for comment on this topic? Okay, I'll give you a brief time. I've got to get somebody through here before 10:30 and give them at least 15 minutes probably. Did you got something, Daniel? I seen your hand up.
No, I was just. Why don't we just let him squeeze in? And
Well, I
then-
can do that if you all don't mind holding on. I need to get him to his meeting. Would you like to do that? Come up here and speak, Pastor Haley. He had a presentation during public comment. He's got a meeting, I believe, at 10:30 to be at, so I don't want to not let him speak.
I've got a PowerPoint that I provided.
Pastor, can you?
I'm sorry. I've got a PowerPoint that I provided just real quick for the commissioners to get a chance to see. As the, ooh, okay. Yes, I think it's 7. There we are. That one should not be it. There we are. Let's go all the way to the top. There we go. As the Reno County Police and Sheriff Chaplain, I was invited to go to Israel. I'm Jewish. And so with the International Conference of Police Chaplains, 23 chaplains went here recently to Israel for 10 days to show solidarity with the Jewish police after the October 7th attack. Slide 2. This is just kind of a bullet point of what we did each day. The stars on the map there in Israel are places that we went and visited. Things like going to the Knesset and getting a chance to see that's their Congress, so to speak. Going to the command center in Jerusalem and visiting with the officers there and learning their day-to-day work. Going on day 2 to Sederot, which was the worst hit area of the October 7th attack. Visiting the ruins of the old station that was destroyed by the terrorists. Meeting with many officers who were there and some of their heroism. and then meeting with families. The hotel that I stayed at was entirely populated by those Jewish people who had lost everything in the attack, and they were staying at our hotel. We got a chance to visit with them and their families, and so on there. Day 3, we went to Tel Aviv. Day 4 is Shabbat, Sabbath, and met with my family there. I got to preach in 2 Baptist churches. And then day 5, went to Galilee, visited the police station there. And then day 6 to Hebron, visited Zaka, which is an amazing work there in Israel. And then toured the Israeli Police Academy. And so each day we were with officers and got to see their work, as I do here in Hutchinson, as I work with the officers here as a chaplain. And then day 7 and 8, my wife, sons, and I visited our Jewish family. Next slide, please. Our purpose is, again, to show solidarity with the police in Israel, visit the officers, chaplains, establish opportunities for future service, future visits to Israel, for our even for our police and sheriff departments here in Hutchinson, and so on there. Next slide. Just real quick, day 1, my wife and 3 sons. My son Richard is a pastor in Wichita. My son Mitchell is a pastor in Longview, and then my 3rd son Trevor is now a missionary to Israel. I took lots of things with me along to help with the different kibbutz. A kibbutz is a Jewish farm area where the people live together and farm, and they are defenseless because they are outside the jurisdiction of Israeli police. And so they pretty much are defenseless when it comes to these terror tunnels and all the attacks that go on a daily basis there. And so we provide them with things just like I took flashlights and batteries and Velcro and duct tape to repair machinery when they need it, and clothing. And I took 4,000 Gospels and then many Hebrew and English New Testaments. Next page, please. Again, we traveled, left America, had a great long 2-day trip. Took us lots of layovers. Turn to the next slide. I'm Jewish again. My mother's a Jew. My grandfather was a rabbi. This is some of my family in Israel that I got to visit and spend time with every day, and it was a great chance to reconnect with them. Here we are with the other chaplains at the Knesset. On the left there, that is the Jewish Knesset. There, we met with an ambassador and then with the head of Israel's education department, and these are the other chaplains from around America. We got to go to the Holocaust Museum and visit with a Holocaust survivor, tour the museum, and also see the Jerusalem Police Headquarters. We weren't allowed to take pictures inside there because of all the work that they do, but we got to meet with all the officers there, and it was amazing to see how they work there in Jerusalem with all the terrorism that's going on an actual daily basis. Turn the slide. We went to Sderot in Gaza, where there was it was the worst affected. Got to meet with many brave people. The slide to the bottom left there is nothing but cars that were destroyed by the terrorists on 10/7. That's the pile of cars, and it was 3 times that. That's just one angle. We got to meet with the police chief at the festival area where 400 kids were killed. 20 officers died defending them as the terrorists invaded and began to just kill at random anybody they could find. I got to place Hutchinson Police Department and Sheriff's Department badges on the old police headquarters site, and then I got a chance to meet with a lot of the officers who went through so much that day. We went to Tel Aviv, and we got to meet with officers and spend time with the police chief there at Tel Aviv, a wonderful man, and doing a great work there to provide security for the people there, Palestinian and Israelis in Tel Aviv. I went to on Shabbat or Sabbath day, which is Friday night to Saturday night. I attended 2 church services with my wife and sons, and we got to worship the Lord there with them. It was amazing to see many Jewish believers, and wonderful chance to connect with them. My son Trevor is on the far left in the white shirt. He is a missionary to Israel, and so he's excited about going and establishing a work there for the Lord. And then we went to the Sea of Galilee with police headquarters. Got to go on the Sea of Galilee on a police boat, which was an amazing opportunity. Got to see how they police there and meet with the officers, spend a lot of time with them. Got to meet the mayor of Galilee. And he talked about some of the issues that they're facing with the Hezbollah to the north and all the refugees that are coming down because of the attacks and so on. There was quite an amazing day. And then we went to Hebron, which is a Jewish community. 200,000 Muslim and 700 Jewish people live in this community and work with the officers there, and then visit the museums and synagogues, and then go to the police academy and tour that and see how they are trained. And it was just an amazing day. And here I am with the other police chaplains again from around America. And then closing time, family time, Jerusalem, the Dead Sea, Eilat. Got to go visit places such as the Garden Tomb, Mount Calvary, where Jesus gave his life for everybody in this room. For our sins, he paid the price for yours and my sins on the cross. He was buried and rose again the third day. And then we got to go visit the Wailing Wall and see all sorts of amazing things. And so time won't allow. I realize you're busy and time is limited, but this is basically our trip. And the biggest thing that I was allowed to do was to show solidarity as a chaplain in America with the police chaplains and work with them and set up opportunities to go back and for them to come to America and training and be able to share experiences and how they do their police work, how we do ours, and basically just make a lot of great connections with the officers and the chaplains that really, they appreciated our support. We are the first group from America to go to Israel following October 7th. There have been senators and others, but we're the first group from America that has gone. And I can't tell you how much they appreciated our support and just encouragement and prayers, and as they do what they do there in Israel on a day-to-day basis. Yes, sir. Any questions or anything? No. It went great. And so thank you. I've been the police chaplain for 3 years here in Hutchinson, and they selected me based on my experience here as a chaplain and my training. And I had to go through a little bit of a background check through that, and so it was a blessing to go and share some of my training with the chaplains and how I do things, and they really appreciated my time with them, and I appreciated their time with me. So,
well, we appreciate what you do as a chaplain.
Yes.
Thank you, Pastor Haley,
Yes,
and thank you for your presentation.
Yes, thank you all. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. Ma'am, did you have public comment?
My name is Sylvia Diaz. I live at 3403 Mona Street. At the March 27 Commissioners meeting, John suggested that the public contact the other 4 commissioners regarding tax dollar use. In the past year, I've been mostly silent when I disagreed with commission, but I did send some emails to you all regarding my support of Dr. Pauly. After watching the March 27th meeting, I feel the need to make a little more effort to express my thoughts. So here I am to speak up. I opposed my taxpayer money going to this Commissioner John, who since coming to this table appears to use it as a platform for his personal agenda to wreak havoc in our community and fearmonger. Comments and allegations about asylum seekers and immigrants are hurtful, they're harmful, and have no place at that table. There's no magic word for those who have been oppressed, persecuted, abused, threatened, hunted, etc. I don't pretend to know these asylum seekers' lives or what they've been through, but it's not my nor your place to determine anything about their immigration status or to allude to them being liars or any other negative adjectives you have. Sometimes you fear what is different than you. I have met some of these children and families. They're not scary. Don't we want our neighbor to be successful, to be able to support themselves, to send their kids to school and college, basic needs that we all have and want for our kids? I want kind, contributing coworkers, neighbors, citizens. I'm not afraid of anyone having a better job than me or being financially better off than me. I don't know anyone from Superior. I'm sure it's a fine company, and I don't want a job there. I already have 2 jobs. I'm not qualified for a job there, but I'm sure if you want to work there, you could apply, probably online. You wouldn't be taking my job. I'm okay with our community growing, thriving, educating others to have a respectable job so they can support their families. Doesn't that sound wonderful? Our actions, our words, can determine the success or failure of a whole family, of a community. Words matter. So why not be kind to the stranger, whether they were born in Kansas or Timbuktu? Quit fear-mongering. It was done with COVID, and now it's being done with newcomers. At the March 27 meeting, John mentioned church and God. I was a stranger and you welcomed me, is what Jesus said. Here's another quote. This one from John the Commissioner, not the apostle. Make sure that you're right with God, and I think if more people went to church and spent time in their spirituality, that would solve a lot of mental health problems that we have. John, suggesting that people with mental health issues are not right with God and are not spiritual is wrong. Judge is not listed on the county website under powers performed by the commission. I read them. These statements are irresponsible and harmful. What is on the list is contract for protection of public health and welfare. Harmful statements about immigrants and those with mental health issues do not suggest that you're looking out for our welfare. People cannot simply pray or church their mental health issues away. Be part of the solution in breaking the stigma of mental health and refrain from ignorant comments. You are not a mental health professional to be saying those things. I speak for myself. I'll tell you what it looks like from out here, from a woman who was born and raised in this community. I was here before you arrived, and I will be here when you leave. I see women treated differently when they stand here at this podium. I've watched how systematically trust in the professional medical community has been chipped away at recently. I've heard comments about government interfering too much, and then government interferes too much. I watched in disbelief as experience and certification was replaced by inexperienced and uncertified. Fear-mongering will only take this community backwards. This is the 21st century. Why am I having to stand up here today in 2024 and address statements from that table that sound misogynistic, racist, xenophobic, hateful, and judgmental? That's all I have.
Thank you for your comments. I will state that that isn't necessarily the reflection of the board. When you make statements in a specific to a person, understand we don't necessarily embrace the views of every commissioner. So I just want to make that comment real quick. Any quick comments or something? Or is there anyone else here for public comment? I know we have another fella here. It's off a different topic. So I do appreciate you for all the public comment. And as one of the commissioners stated, it would do us well to get more involved and know more about what your organization stands for, and I appreciate that. I appreciate y'all being here and speaking up today, and that's certainly your right, and I appreciate it. We take those things to heart. I know I personally do, and I'm not speaking for the rest of them, but I'm pretty sure that they do too, and so thank you again for your comments and your time for being here. We will move the meeting along to the next comment. I think you got a comment about possibly a new bridge project or something. Would you come to the podium and state your name and address and stuff? Yep, you. I forgot. I introduced myself, but I forgot your name. Go ahead.
Okay. Ralph Jansen. I live at 8905 East 69th Avenue in Bueller, Kansas. And my topic is about raising Bueller Haven Road there, just south of Bueller. I live on the west side of that, which I have a good possibility of getting flooded if that road gets raised. I want to cover some issues about that 2019 flood. That was an extraordinary flooding season that year. And that's what we're raising this road on a lot, is all that water. We had 28 inches of rain in 2 months, in April and May. We had 18.5 inches of rain in May alone. At my place, I had 4 floods. And I want to discuss the last one. That road was blocked. Bueller Haven was blocked because there was water going over that road. the last flood I want to talk about, because I have a barn that the water was about 2 inches from the floor of the barn. It's a wood structure. And it stayed that way all day. And you could see the water doing this. It was flowing, and then it was backing up. It was stopping. Then it was flowing, and it was backing up. 10 o'clock, I'm telling you how unpredictable a river is. At 10 o'clock, I went out and checked. I had pigeons in that barn. Made sure all my feed was out, everything was clear. The water was still 2 inches, below that floor. At 3:30 in the morning, I got up and went out, and it was 6 inches above that floor. So how does a river raise water? It raised about 7, 8 inches, and it already was at high level. And how does it do that? I think we need to understand that 2019 flood real good before we raise this road and spend a lot of money on this. I know the bridge is getting old and needs to be replaced, but we need to be real careful what we're doing here, because people south of me, and you're going to flood some areas if we don't do it real careful. So that's all I have. Thank you.
But anyway, Don, I'll let you speak to this.
Yeah, Don Britton, Director of Public Works. The road, 82nd west of Bueller and Bueller Road south of Bueller is over top that road and been barricaded off several times other than the 2019 flood in the last 14 years I've been here. And part of this grant is to raise the road and to enlarge the bridge so that it doesn't cause any upstream flooding. So it will not raise the water upstream like at your place. That's all a part of this, so that the water won't be overtopping, and also upstream the water won't rise any higher than it is now, and it should be less. As far as downstream, the reason a river can go up and down is because downstream, that's all flooded too. And so it can only take on so much. And when it can't take on any more, then the water's going to back up upstream. And that's why that can go up and down like the gentleman was talking about. Okay. Any other questions? Thank you.
Comments or questions? No? Okay. Well, I appreciate all the public comment. Certainly, I'm sure they're going to engineeringly, they'll look at that, every possibility to make sure it's the absolute best it can be. We're going to move on to any additions or revisions to the agenda that we had. Yes.
I was just, can you scroll down on the agenda? I know there's people here for 7C. It looks like we did 7A, so I was just going to ask.
You want to go past and do the consent at the end, we can do that. It doesn't bother me. I just want to make sure there's no additions or we need to move anything before we do that.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's do that. Then let's skip ahead to 7C. I don't have any problem with that. 7B approval.
Did it just turn on?
Yeah, that'll go a little faster probably than the other one, I imagine. So, well, 7B approval for you got something, Don, you want to say?
No, I just noticed my computer isn't bringing up anything.
7B was the approval of resolution 2024 authorizing the issuance of general obligation bonds for the payment of a portion of the cost of certain sewer treatment. So let's address that if we could, please. State your name if you would and let us know who you are.
Mr. Chair, Honorable Commission, Kevin Cowan with Gilmore & Bell in Wichita. We are the county's bond counsel. This resolution, you have some background. It's very similar to something that we discussed and addressed last summer, which is a piece of this sewer improvement project and some temporary financing for that in preparation for the larger project. And so the resolution before you is an authorizing resolution. It recites what the project is. It recites there's been a little bit of temporary financing already done, and authorizes some additional temporary financing in the amount of $450,000. This is the first step in the process. Once you've authorized the bonds, the expectation is that we'll work with county staff and assemble a temporary note transaction so that the $450,000 that we're authorizing today can be borrowed on a temporary basis, pay some of these project costs in the near future as we head toward the permanent financing on the larger project. So again, very similar to what was done last summer on a piece of this project, so a little bit of a repeat, and would be happy to address any questions or comments you may have.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Any comment, Mr.
Mr. Chair, I'd motion to approve 2024-10.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Hurst. Any further comments or questions? No, seeing none, let's take a roll call.
Commissioner Hurst.
Yes.
Commissioner Friesen.
Yes.
Commissioner Weitzel.
Yes.
Commissioner Parks.
Yes.
Commissioner Bogner.
Yes. Motion passed 5-0. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
On to 7C. Thank you. Appreciate that. Appreciate your work. Economic Development Relocation Incentive Agreement with Superior Holdings Incorporated. Randy, you want to start this one off?
Sure. This was discussed at the last commission meeting. Superior Holding Incorporated is looking at an expansion, possibly here in Hutchinson, Reno County. And we've talked over, right now in policy, we have a job incentive policy. City of Hutchinson also has the same policy. For this expansion, proposed expansion, in discussions with the chamber, and chamber, I believe, talked with Superior Boiler, who is here in the audience today, if you have questions, about a possibility of a different kind of incentive that the county has the budget for, line item for incentives, that would maybe take a different angle at trying to recruit new employees from outside of Reno County, assuming they can't find someone in Reno County. Of course, I would assume that if they had the employees here in Reno County, they would be hiring them. They probably would have already hired them. But the job relocation incentive is a new kind of a pilot program for us to see if this helps build the population and the economy here in Reno County, Hutchinson. So the proposal is that with our incentive money, Reno County would pay up to $2,500 per job of a new person moving into Reno County. There's, in the policy, there are requirements that must be fulfilled to get that incentive. The agreement would be signed by Superior, by Reno County, and the Chamber. The Chamber and Superior Holding would be working together on the specifics for the proof of someone moving into Reno County, and then the Chamber would let us know, and then we would, if this is approved, pay Superior directly $2,500. They would also, this is a match, so this $2,500 isn't just brand new. Superior would also be paying for some relocation expense. So that's kind of a brief overview. I know Deborah's here. I know Superior CEO's here. There's various people in the audience if you have questions about their expansion, but then
yeah.
Deborah, if you want to speak anything to add.
Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioners. I'm here on behalf of the Chamber and Greater Hutch. I also have with me Lauren Storm, who is our Business Retention and Expansion Manager.
Deborah.
Yes?
Name.
Oh, I'm Deborah Tufel with
I
the
know you said
Hutchinson
that,
Reno
right?
County Chamber of Commerce. Sorry about that, Randy.
That's okay.
So thank you for letting me speak this morning on behalf of this project. As I said, and Randy Partington said, we have some representatives here with us from Superior Boiler. Myself, as well as our business retention and expansion manager, Lauren Storm, have been working with the leaders at Superior on this expansion, but also previous expansions. They have demonstrated their success in our community over 100 years, but in the last 5 years have expanded time and again and added just recently 50 jobs, and this is an additional 50 that they are hoping to employ. To ramp up a new facility that would be an expansion of their Corey Road facility. They also have operations on East 4th Avenue on both sides of the street. And so with us today, we have Doug Wright, as well as Christina Nutman and Don Whitman. And Don has recently been promoted, I think, to president and CEO, and Doug is a member of the board. I have with me as well the chairman of the Economic Development Advisory Council, Brad Pryor, and a member of our Chamber Executive Committee, Joe Onches. And we are all here in support of this as a new pilot program to look at a different way to incentivize new job creation in the community. And the way it directly impacts Reno County is, while in the past we may have incentivized job creation and employers that are growing here, which definitely seed the economy, there was no direct way to ensure that the people working then in those jobs actually live here. This program directly does that because the company is matching the relocation dollars. They are demonstrating moving an individual to Reno County with that relocation incentive that the company is providing and asking for that match of $2,500 from Reno County. And then it has to be documented before they could draw down that stipend. Documenting where they moved from and documenting that they established a residence here in Reno County through a number of ways, but we've in fact in the last 2 weeks added to that agreement that they have to also provide proof of registration of at least one vehicle in Reno County as real proof of that relocation. So I think this is a really foolproof way to make sure that your dollars are demonstrating that they are bringing new residents to Reno County and employing them in great jobs with a longtime employer here.
Thank you, Deborah. I know there's been a lot of bantering about whether we're going to give preference to out of town. I don't think that's the truth. I think they're going to give every effort, from my understanding, to hire within, but it's become increasingly difficult to find craftsmen with the skill to come out and do some of the jobs we have in the community. Is that not true?
That is true. You know, we're in a really tight labor market, and it's even tighter when you're in a company that is doing a really specific type of welding, of complex systems, of boilers that they produce. And so because of those specialty skills, there is a limited number of that particular skill here. We do have a great training program at Hutch Community College, and Superior demonstrates that they will hire every one of the welders coming out of those programs. But there is a limitation to how many students we're putting through those programs in reality. And so I know they make every effort to hire locally when they can. I don't think they would be willingly paying a relocation stipend on their own if they could find people here. But they know the limitations, and they also don't want to just continue to, for lack of a better term, steal employees from a neighboring business. You know, they do provide a great wage and a great job, but it doesn't serve anyone well to just keep churning the same employees amongst each other and borrowing from each other. We've got to do something to bring new residents into Reno County. And so I applaud Superior for coming up with the creative way that they propose to do that. And we're willing to look at a different kind of incentive request from Reno County to help support that.
Anybody got any questions for Deborah? Commissioner Hurst?
Well, I would say one thing, I congratulate looking at new things new. I know that the definition of absurdity is to keep doing the same things and get the same results. And so from this standpoint, I like the idea that it's a pass-through, that it goes to the individual that's going to be moving here, maybe bringing children, maybe adding educational money to the schools, to the community, and all the other small sales tax and things that go with it. I like looking at something new that I think can work We will know it by having a pilot program for 2 years. I had a conversation last night, about an hour, with a fellow that wanted to know about this. And he had some other things that maybe we could look at later on with regard to JUCO training and so forth. And so from that standpoint, I think we all plan ahead for the future, whether it's next week when we have to buy tires or whether it's 20 years when we retire. And I think this is a way of looking ahead to find out whether a program will work. So I like the idea of trying something. And I think just because we get complaints about maybe somebody subsidizing an existing business, I disagree with that a little bit, because we have to look forward. And the thing I think about is we have to increase our tax base. We have to increase our population with something that's a long-term employer and that anticipates being there a long time. It's somebody that's homegrown here. It's not moved in from Timbuktu, as somebody said a while ago. It's somebody that's proven their ability to stay, and they brought another group of people and their other business in here. So congratulations, as far as I'm concerned.
Commissioner Friesen.
Mr. Chair, I'd move to approve the pilot program as presented.
Point of order, there's people to speak publicly on this before we vote.
By policy, they cannot speak publicly on an agenda item, actually.
We've always done that
I'll
in the
second
past.
it. I'll second the motion.
I would open comments here.
Okay,
After
I have a point of order.
After the motions.
Okay, I have a second point of order that, Mr. Chair, you have to rule on the first point of order. So either
I personally wouldn't mind hearing from people, because I have a lot of comments on this that I think I'd like to state publicly before we take a vote ever on it.
I don't think that's a point of order.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll withdraw the motion if we want to take more comment. And I think the point of not taking public comment for items on the agenda is to allow the commission to determine whether it wants public comment during the agenda item, to kind of line that up, right? I mean, Commissioner Hurst, wasn't that the intention of the history? We've always taken public, I mean, the commission has decided on the agenda item whether we want to take comment. So, normally the chair decides and nobody objects and we hear public comment on the agenda.
Well, I would like to hear from some folks. If you're not objecting to that, I don't have, but I know in policy it states when you sign up for public comment on an agenda item that you can't comment on it. And I certainly want to be transparent enough to let people speak.
I do think we want to revisit this a little bit so that we don't
I
have
do too.
that confusion.
I do
we
too.
can decide.
One thing before we do that, though, I'd like to hear from Superior, somebody would like to be a spokesperson. I have one question, if you don't mind. Would you mind stepping to the podium for just a second, sir? I know she already gave you your name. Just state your name if you would mind and that for us, please.
Doug Wright, Superior Holding.
Doug, thank you for coming to one thing I'd like to know is if you have any kind of a time frame in mind for this. I think there's conceptions that we're going to just give a great big chunk of money to somebody, and I'm sure it's over the next year or two probably before this is going to happen anyway.
Well, we would like to hire as soon as we could.
Oh, you could.
The reality is that just doesn't happen. So
Right.
it'd probably be over a couple of years is how it's going to, transpire. But if we could find them today or tomorrow, then we would certainly be willing to bring them on board.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you. I hadn't heard from you. I wanted to know what kind
We
of
do
time
think
frame.
we do thank the county for their consideration of this. I think this with the chamber was a great idea, and we're hopeful that it'll get passed.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Anybody here for public comment on this issue? Wants to stand up? Joyce? Yep, go state your name and address and what you want to talk about.
I'm Joyce Wilson, 905 West 24th Avenue. I just had a couple questions. I know prior to this, $25,000 was given to your company, Idea Tech. Was that for the same thing? Was that a enticement for hiring?
Well, Okay, I have a point of order. I don't think we normally, like,
I mean-
I would be happy to answer your question.
Okay, okay. I mean-
Out of the meeting.
Okay.
Because I'm
But
conflicted.
I noticed that prior to this.
Mr. Chairman.
Hold on, please.
I'm conflicted on this topic, so I really can't even engage in a conversation in my commission's
But
capacity.
Okay.
So, and generally speaking, I don't think we do a back and forth with public comment.
Okay, okay. I've never been.
No worries. And I'd be happy to talk
I
to you
don't know
after
the
the meeting.
protocol.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was just wondering, okay, this time, you know, and I agree, it's a good program, but I'm also thinking about the taxpayers of Reno County. And it just seems like everyone's taxes are just going up and up and up. And I see the comments on the Reno County Facebook post that people are drowning because of all the taxes that are being imposed on the Reno County residents. And it's just getting worse and worse. People can't feed their kids. They can't pay their rent. You know, it's just heartbreaking to see. So now we're going to do 125,000. You know, we did 25,000. Now we're going to do 125,000 for boiler. What's it going to be next month? Is there going to be another company that we've got to come up with more money? And the next month and the next month. You know, is this the snowball rolling down the hill that is going to break the backs of the Reno County taxpayers? Or is there going to be a check in there? You know, because that's who I'm speaking for, are all of the Reno County taxpayers. It's getting rough. And I just want to make sure that money isn't just going out and out and out, that we, the people, are having to pay for. And that, you know, there just needs to be some type of a check. And that's my concern today.
Anyone else before we pass comment? Yes, sir.
Good morning. My name is Brad Pryor. I am chair of the Chamber's Economic Development Advisory Committee. Just had some quick notes I'd like to present on behalf of this program in Superior. I would like to note that this program is an investment. It's an investment in this community. Superior Boiler is a company that I've watched and expand and grow over the last 20 years. I have to say that Doug Wright and their team is extremely community-minded, huge community supporters, and they care about Hutchinson. And as a business in our community, that's very important. Superior Boilers, everything that we go after with the Chamber of Commerce and try to recruit to Hutchinson. They are the model business. They are growing. They're investing in our community. And I have to say, I love driving up Airport Road and always looking and seeing what and where they're shipping, because they service all over all over the United States and globally. Around 5 years ago, Superior filled a vacant industrial building that we had landed for a public restroom company. Due to some unforeseen circumstances, we had awarded a big project for this community, then had the rug pulled out from underneath us. Doug Wright and team had brought a business from out of town into our community. Filled a vacant building, added jobs, more sales tax, more tax base to a vacant building. I look at this incentive package in two ways and sum it up. Our community is either on offense or defense. Offense meaning we help local business grow, stimulate all the economic development benefits on job growth, more sales tax, more property tax, and stopping our declining population. With our declining population, you all are still going to have the same budget. So we're either moving forward or we're moving backwards, in my opinion. I'm part of the investment group for the 57,000 square foot industrial park building. Myself and 7 other investors that are on the hook for $3.5 million because we believe in this community. We want to stimulate and fill a need in this community and bring people to our community for site visits and grow our community, ultimately growing our tax base. As an investor in that building, I want to see us in the county go on offense, grow our tax base, grow our sales tax, and ultimately grow our community. Superior is a fantastic business. My recommendation would be do anything we can to help support them because they are exactly what we want in this community, and we want businesses like them. So thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you for that. Appreciate
I might make, if I may,
Yes.
might make one comment to the comment about taxes. For the last 2 years, the total tax dollars taken in by Reno County itself has not increased. The total tax dollars has not increased. Now, it may not happen next year because we're going to suffer through this 8 and 5% inflation, but we're going to do our best to do that. So from that standpoint, the tax dollars from schools and others may have done something different, but from the county standpoint, we reduced the mill levy because of the RNR program that the state's offered, that we could only increase it a small amount before we have to take it to the public for a vote. If that helps, just define things.
Did you have a comment?
I did, yeah. And so, so I've gotten some people contacting me this week, and I did want to clarify some comments at the last meeting. So my quote dust up, as it was reported in the paper, was over the process, not over Superior Boiler or over the contract itself. It was the way that we were going about approving the contract. I thought there should be public comment on it. Thought people should have the right to see the contract before it was voted on. And so that was the dust up that was alluded to in the paper. And I personally think Superior is an excellent company. I know a lot of the people involved there, and I think they do good work, and I think they really care about our community. And so my objection to this contract has nothing to do with Superior at all. If we were going to give it to anybody, I'd say we give it to them. But more of the underlying, using taxpayer monies to incentivize businesses. I think we should, because we're going to have to make some cuts this year if we want to keep the revenue neutral rate. And $400,000 is a whole lot of cutting that we could do if we got rid of the incentives that we've just recently started giving in the last couple of years to people. This contract is minimum of 5 jobs. So, and if we do it for one company, can we really exclude any company? And so that's I just wanted to clarify those comments.
Commissioner Boger? I know you're under Daniel too.
I just want to make the motion so we can discuss it under the motion. Motion to approve the pilot program as presented.
Motion by Commissioner Friesen, second by Commissioner Hurst. Now we'll open for comments. Did you have something, Commissioner Boger?
Yeah, I've got a couple questions before I consider my vote. The monies that are in this, that will be spent, should this thing go through, where were they derived from?
The general fund, which has property tax, sales tax, and some user fees over, different fees from district court or wherever that do go into the general fund. So in that general fund, there's a line item of $400,000 that has historically been in the county's budget since before I was here. It's always been there. So out of that amount, that's where the incentives are paid. And we've over the years done different incentives for various businesses with this money.
It's a long standing program, but this contract would be a new twist.
This contract, the relocation is different. Superior would still qualify for the job performance, which they are actually we're in a contract with them right now. It's toward the end of that one, which when they brought from Richmond, Virginia, they brought that staff. They have that incentive, and that goes up to $1,500 per job. So it's going from a $1,500 per job to $2,500 per job, but it's still the same line item, same amount or same budget area.
But my understanding is the only way Superior can access the funds under this contract we're considering is to use it for a relocation.
Yes,
That's
as Deborah
part of
mentioned,
these rules that are out here.
yes, there are certain criteria that Superior will gather and get with the chamber to prove that there's been a new resident or new employee that lives in Reno County, and I don't know how Superior is going to do it, but the money probably is going from Superior to the new employee to help her with relocation. We are then paying about 50% if it's a $5,000 relocation. That helps offset those costs for Superior.
Then
That goes to the employee.
Let's switch this to the old regular contract they're under now. They get the 1,500. Their sole requirement would be to have that job there. It wouldn't have to be spent in any specific way. They could spend that 1,500 any way they chose to enhance getting an employee.
That's correct.
Am I correct?
Yeah, they have to prove.
So they
yeah.
could use it in this manner should they decide without this, because that's up to their discretion as long as that job ends.
The difference with the job, the other one, the current contract they have, is for every new position, they have to wait 4 full quarters of payments that they've had that position employed, and then send a spreadsheet, work with the county, a spreadsheet, and then they get paid after that 4 quarters. So it is a little different. This one would be after there's proof that this person now lives in Reno County. I don't know if there's a wait period, but then they would get the money.
But it doesn't necessarily say they've fulfilled that job for what's considered a 4 quarters. They've been here a year.
On the current
So
one?
we've lessened the requirement there, but we've pushed an extra requirement on here that it's got to be spent specifically for a relocation.
Right, and if someone has moved here, then even if they, after 8 months, do not work for Superior, it's likely that they're still going to live in Reno County, have increased the population, and maybe they were taken by another employer here locally.
Could I ask a question of Doug? How do you feel this? Do you feel your hands will be tied by this new? Apparently, you've applied for it or
Yeah, we're
in
not,
discussion.
we don't feel our hands are being tied. We're looking for really new ways to attract employees. And so we've used a lot of different means over the last 3 to 4 years. And so this is just another avenue for us to pursue finding talented skills that we need, people, even some professional people, to come into Reno County and support what we do.
Well, I sympathize with you on the fact that good employees are hard to get wherever you're at. Public here and all our personal businesses, we go through the same thing you do.
I've got our HR manager here, Christina, and she can speak to every which way we've looked at trying to fill the openings we have. And so, yeah, we don't feel like we're tied. We're going to continue to try to do what we do to try to attract the employees we need.
But your personal, the way it is now, you personally can use that in education, in sign-on bonuses, however you want to use it, as long as that job's there, correct?
You're talking about the 1,500 today?
Yes.
Yes.
So if we were to change that, you'll have the addition of only being able to spend it one way.
That's correct. We're going to try to attract employees here from other places outside of Reno County. At the same time, though, believe me, if there's qualified people within the county, that's who we're going to try to hire as well. So it's not going to be like our primary emphasis is going to be outside the county, that's not it at all. We just know kind of the road, the walls we run up against and the hurdles we faced.
All right. Thank you. Commissioner Friesen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've received a half dozen or so emails on this, and some negative and some related to the overall economic concerns we have here and nationally. I think it's important to point out again that this commission over the last 3 years has reduced its mill levy by 5%, 3 years in a row. Our impact on taxes in Reno County is 20 to 25%, roughly speaking, of the total tax bill. There's 75% of your tax bill that isn't following our lead, whether it be school districts, municipalities, and other state and other agencies. And so, they have their own needs and they get to decide for themselves. But it seems like we are the lightning rod for complaints about the taxing situations in the county. We are doing everything we can. We've cut the budget every year I've been on this commission. And our county administrator has given us details that we're on the lower end of a mill levy for a county. And so I think, at a high level, the frustration of tax levels is misdirected at this commission because we're doing a lot all the time to do that. More specifically on this particular topic, it is already budgeted. It's not going to increase your taxes by allowing this pilot program to go through. And, I think it's important, if you talk to any successful business person, you're going to say, to grow your business, you got to do one or two things. You either got to cut costs or increase revenue. And on one side, cutting costs, eventually you start to cut into the bone. There's a point at which, you're getting diminishing returns. And as Commissioner Hurst pointed out, we're starting to get to that point where we're starting to cut really deep. On the other side, you got to increase revenue. And there's two ways a taxing entity can do that. One way is to just increase our mill levy, which we're not going to do. I think the entire commission has agreed we're going to try to hold the line, if not reduce it. The other way is to increase the base, and you do that by growing the economy, by bringing new people in that build new homes that get taxed, by encouraging businesses like Superior to expand their business, to build new parts to their building. All of these things stimulate the economy. These people pay sales tax, the company pays sales tax. There's all kinds of employment taxes. All of this stuff generates new revenue without increasing, the average person's home property tax. And so that's, I think we're looking at it at two, there's points on both sides. And on one side, it's like, take all the incentives away so we don't increase taxes. The other side is make prudent decisions on incentives so we don't increase taxes and actually lower them. And so we're coming at it from the same place. But I think on one side, you kind of box yourself in eventually by not providing smart incentives and just continuing to cut costs, and never focusing on growing the tax base, which is what we really need to do if we want to sustain ourselves as a community. So I'm very supportive of this, and we need to grow the tax base so we can lower taxes. I know that's a complicated discussion, but that's my position. And also, we need to support the job creators in our community. Like, these people are what create jobs so we can own our homes, so we can buy things locally. And if we keep taking this more and more negative position that doesn't support very reasonable asks from very important community job creators, going to scare them away. I mean, it's not like Superior Boiler couldn't move to Wichita and get some great incentives, probably get a better employee base. I mean, there's the reality that it's a competitive atmosphere and we can't change that. So we have to stay competitive as a county to stay in the market, keep these job creators happy, and lower our taxes. So I just would encourage everyone to look at the entire picture here and understand we're trying to lower taxes by growing our economy. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Friesen. I will probably, I don't know if anybody will have comment, but if not, I'll probably close this out. Some of the things that you've mentioned, I definitely agree with. Certainly, I've been a proponent for not growing government. In fact, I was very adamant with the rest of the board last year to hold the line so we keep taxes down. Not knowing where we're going in this next year, election or otherwise, some people are scared of that, what the economy is going to do. I mean, it is critical that we preserve jobs, and it's critical that we try to grow to create more revenues. But I had some further thoughts on that. I kind of went on my own research. I just wanted to share with the public. In this past week or two, since we met about this particular issue, I've reached out not only just in my district, but to constituents, and then also to small business owners that I've either known or didn't know for years. I just cold called, wanted to know what they thought about this issue. And quite honestly, I was pretty surprised when I was met with almost a 100% approval of moving forward to do this. A highly thought of company that's here in the community that we want to preserve. And certainly I threw this out to one business owner I know that's been around here for years and years that has a heating and air company. And their thoughts was, we need to do this because we need to all share in the taxes, and it's good for commerce. They're going to continue. If we do move 50 new families in here, it's going to grow the economy. I want to tell you, I lived in Farmington, Missouri for 3 years, and they call that the bedroom community to St. Louis, and it's an hour up there. I was always up St. Louis doing something, but people would commute from Farmington, Missouri. It was a community of 19,000 people. By the time we left, 29,000 people. And it had grown 50 families a month. What was the reason for that? Well, part of it was what they continued to foster and build there to provide. A lot of them were driving to the city, if you'll call St. Louis the city, to do that. But the environment was conducive for people to move there and get out of the city. And so many other factors that have been talked about over time, from the education to childcare and all these things that are a factor in business coming here. And I'm certainly a proponent for keeping a good company like we have. My father grew up working for 40-some years at Eaton Corporation, and that's no longer there. It's just weed patches. Dillon's is gone. Consolidated's gone. There is no great big manufacturers here anymore, and they seek to continue to grow. And so in that sense, I certainly support this. But I want to comment on the emails and the contacts that I've had. I've not nearly been able to reach out to everybody. Had some conversations last night prior to the meeting. But I want to share a few of my personal thoughts and feelings on this. Yes, I hate to raise taxes. I hate to spend your tax money on incentives like this. You've seen me vote no, if you've watched any of these meetings, on some of these things. And in all likelihood, I'm going to support this, and I'll tell you why. Because which one of us, and I'm going to reach out to the audience today because I want to know, which one of us has ever taken a handout from the government? Can you raise your hand if you haven't? Anybody bold enough to do that? I'm going to read a list of things that we all are incentivized with every day that the government takes care of. Your hospitals and your clinics are federally funded. Your medications are sometimes given to people that are federally funded. Your insurance perhaps on the marketplace, or you can get it at a greatly reduced rate. Your schools are funded, and you spoke on that, Daniel. Sometimes we have no control over the taxation of them. I protest that. I think we should have final authority here. That way we can make sure they're doing the right thing. It's not going to happen. That's a state issue. Colleges are funded federally. Ours here are funded by your tax dollars here locally as well. You walk into the grocery store, and I'm sitting by a farmer that I know over the course of the time that I worked on farm equipment, a lot of subsidies are given to farms. If you walked in and they weren't subsidized, your milk might, in all likelihood, be 15, 20 bucks a gallon. And so every one of us share in something that if we want to say we've allowed to happen over the course of time. There's business grants that are given federally every day. We're looking at a federal grant, not a local grant, to do this bridge. through some funding, and it is all our tax dollars from right here all the way up that takes care of these things. A lot of utility bills are taken care of. What about all the free school lunches that are provided and stuff? That's tax dollars. I mean, we all partake at some level in some kind of a grant-based society. And I just wrote a few of these things down because I thought it would be something that I just need to share. If we stand out there and point fingers and say you can't fund this because it's a locally private company and it's not fair to give them money, then off this list I would challenge you not to use those services anymore. And I bet we're all going to do that before the day is over in some fashion or another. So to cherry pick and say that one part of the government can't spend money because they need to incentivize and help grow their community, and then sit there on the other side and reach out to the services that are provided somewhat by federal and state dollars, to me is what's the word I'm looking for here? And I won't use it. It is to me a little bit ridiculous. And we haven't raised taxes. And as Commissioner Friesen has stated, I imagine we're on a quest to try to do that again, not knowing what the economy is going to do. The reality of the fact we could do that is that it is probably more than 8% in a lot of areas that things have risen, and in all likelihood it could happen. And I don't want to raise your taxes, but this money has already been spoken, comes from some other avenues to help enrich in this budget item. It's been in policy for years, and we didn't create the policy before any one of us got here to these positions, and it's been in budget. There's good reserves to use for this, and I think there's a lot of misconceptions about this. It's a pass-through. I've heard that the chamber gets enriching from this. It doesn't go into Deborah Tufels or anybody else's pockets. It's going directly to people. Now, I took a job out of town one time that I got given $5,000 to help me move. And so I understand the reality of what $5,000 can do. It actually helped on the down payment on a house that I bought when I got there. And so it is probably a good thing to attract that. Of the business owners that I talked to, and their attitude was maybe they'll come here and either buy more, maybe they'll ask for heat and air service, maybe, and there was a variety of them. And I asked the people, if we could move forward with this enough that it would help reduce your taxes, would that be a good or a bad thing to you? Well, I think it's kind of a no-brainer. And I shared with Mr. Partington a few days ago about this. I said, I was really aghast because I thought I would hear small business owners tell me that it's not fair that we're going to give money to them. And they said, do it, because we want the people in this community. So, I mean, I just wanted to speak to that publicly this morning because that's how I felt. The list goes on and on and on about what's subsidized by the federal and state, even perhaps local governments. It's not just one issue. And sure, it needs to be tightened up. I get that. We need to hold the line. But I want to see more people in the community. I don't want to incentivize people to move from out of town, but I've already been told that's not going to happen. Preference is given here first. And in that quest, I also had some people that told me that they've reached out to probably some work needs to be done in our technical fields here. They've reached out for help time and time again and can't find help. It's as if some of them go to the class and check the box for a grade, but they don't have the skill set to come out and do anything. We've got a generation of people that, and pardon me for saying this, didn't have mom or dad or whoever teaching them some skill sets that would foster the mechanics to be able to do some of these jobs. And so it is a predicament in the community, and I face that trying to hire people every day. And so I realize that it's getting more difficult and we have to look outside. So I've said my piece. I'll shut up. I'll allow the motion to go forward if there's no more comments. Mr. Weitzel, yes.
Okay, so I was a director of training for a pretty large company, and we built a lot of locations. We averaged 3 to 4 stores a year that we built. And I called to make sure. And so I asked him, I was like, these incentives that local governments offer, were these considerations when we went into different places? And the answer I got was, well, not really. We would look at the, how much money we can make at a site, the traffic, the things like that. And then after we selected a site, we would go to the city and the county and the state and anybody else that would give us money and see what incentives were out there. So as far as I know, this is a fairly new program. My understanding is it was invented when Siemens came into the area and wanted some incentives. And that those jobs really didn't work out the way we had hoped they would, or at least the commission at the time had hoped they would, in my opinion. But this is not a long-standing, generations-long program. This will encumber money in the future for at least the next 2 years. Plus, any other company that wants to create a minimum of 5 jobs can come and request this. And if we deny anybody, then the county commission is picking winners and losers. Programs incentivizes companies to hire people from outside of the county using property tax monies collected involuntarily from Reno County residents. I don't think Superior Boiler is going to do that, but I'm not speaking to Superior Boiler. I'm speaking to the policy in general, and that there are companies that, given the option of a local person or getting money from the county to bring somebody else, might choose to not give our neighbor a job and give it to somebody from another state or from another county in order to move them in here. So I don't think it's right to use people's property tax monies for that. Deborah mentioned in the last meeting that some places do sales tax to pay for this. I mean, if we had a sales tax to pay for this, then the people of Reno County could vote on it and decide if that's something we want to do, and that would be a much larger incentive than the $2,500. I personally think that would be a better way to go. Unfortunately, I don't think I've ever heard of a sales tax increase not passing in Reno County, but so I imagine it would pass. But at least people would have a say then. It could be a direct democracy instead of the county potentially picking winners and losers, deciding which companies can participate in this pilot program and which ones can't in the future. And then nothing. So I guess that's my piece. I just don't want. We're gonna if we want to. If we keep the mill levy the same, that's going to be an increase in taxes. That's going to be an increase in property taxes. The last 3 years, the county has lowered the mill levy, so that way, your property taxes from the county have not gone up. If we want to do it again this year, it's going to be very difficult. We're going to have to make some cuts. $400,000 is a great place to make these cuts. And put that money back into and if we cut the $400,000, we could put all that towards property tax reduction, right?
Okay. Well, I do have one thing to say. Thank you for your investments in that spec building and the people that did that. I forgot to mention that. We do appreciate that. Certainly that is private dollars going into to help this community. I might address the sales tax issue just briefly. The other day in the office, Randy Partington and I sat and talked for a while, and so I failed to mention this, and I'm glad you brought that up, John. We are going to pursue in the future trying to find maybe some sunsetting sales tax that we can look at this avenue. In fact, I understand there's some other communities doing this, and Ms. Tufel and I had a conversation at our last meeting because I'm pretty direct to her. I wanted to know why we weren't in the hunt for one of the businesses that's going to land in a smaller community than us. We weren't prepared for it because we didn't have the money to finish up and have it ready. And I think it would seek to bring in more money than what we're doing. And I'm all about, there's some other issues we've had I want to take before people too, so the public has a chance to speak, but I'm all about letting them have a voice in this. And if we could generate more money, we could ready those. It is the job of the city and the county to ready the infrastructure for these. And it's either going to be a tax burden or we could have it one or the other, be lessen the burden maybe. So in the future, we are pursuing that, and we're going to bring that information out if we can find something. I'm sure he'll be in liaison with the city and other things too. I told him, please move forward with this. Not hiding it from the board, but I want to have our ducks in a row before we say anything. So anyway, Commissioner Friesen.
No, I too thank you for your investment. Chamber for representing all of those that are building jobs and investing in our community, and appreciate that. It's challenging sometimes to observe a debate and not kind of pick things that are negative and positive and focus on it, or hear one particular comment and then think it's representative of the entire commission. I think we've heard that a few times today. That's not the case. So I think I was going to motion to call the question, but maybe you're going to, do roll call here. Maybe we're all done.
Well, there's a motion and a second. If there isn't any further comment.
I would motion to call the
Turn
question.
your mic on.
Sorry, I'd like clarification on one thing, if that's okay. So we added driver's license, or I mean, we added
Vehicle registry, I actually had intended that in an original draft. And I think as a side note, in general, there's a concern that people who are supposed to legally be registering their vehicles here aren't doing that. And it occurred to me that if people are benefiting from a relocation grant, they should certainly be following the law and registering their vehicle where they now state that they live. So that was the intent behind that.
Okay, and what about driver's license? Because I know you can register a vehicle anywhere because the vehicle's supposed to be registered where it's driven the most. But driver's license is what determines residency.
I think
it
in the
determines where you
agreement,
vote and-
we didn't require driver's license. When I was drafting, I've never drafted a relocation agreement before, so I took from other things. We didn't require a driver's license as proof. We kind of left it to the chamber. We had some requirements and some other options that if someone could use to prove residency. So that's as it's written.
If they have a tag that's registered here and a driver's license that isn't, they will be informed of that if they're ever pulled over.
So I would like to motion to amend the agenda.
So I motioned to call the question. You kind of interrupted. So, I would ask the chair to rule on whether the call to question is the next thing we need to decide here. Yeah, call the question, which would mean that we would vote on whether we're going to end debate.
All right, which takes a supermajority to end debate. So
That's
take
true.
4.
So,
Let's do that. Let's call the question and take a vote.
okay.
Commissioner Hurst,
Yes. Excuse me, yes.
Commissioner Friesen,
Yes.
Commissioner Whitesall,
No.
Commissioner Bogner,
Yes.
Commissioner Parks.
Yes. Motion passes 4-1.
That was the motion to call the question.
So just roll call on the motion now.
So, yeah, it should be there's no further comments now.
You have to
Yeah.
you have to vote on it now.
Yeah.
Because you
Yeah.
gotta call it.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
now
we
we can
cut
roll
off
call
debate.
the motion in
On
a
the
second.
motion. Okay. Commissioner Hurst,
Yes.
Commissioner Friesen,
Yes.
Commissioner Whitesall,
No.
Commissioner Bogner,
No.
Commissioner Parks.
I feel we're setting a precedent.
Yes. I assume that's a motion passed 3-2.
Am I allowed to make a motion to amend the agreement at this point, or would that be out of order?
Is this on the driver license deal?
Yeah.
I really don't see any problem with having that in there, honestly. I think we
Okay.
could amend that. If that's all right with council, we could do that.
I think it requires a super majority because it's changing the decision of the commission.
We got 4-1.
Okay.
I mean, it doesn't mean you can't make the motion.
Nah, I'm
I'm
pretty
not
sure I don't have a
sure either.
supermajority. I'll make the motion. I motion to add an agenda item to the agenda to change the contract that we just agreed upon to add the requirement of changing their driver's license to an address in Reno County.
I'll second that.
May I make a comment?
Yes, you
I
may.
usually do. When we went down this concept, we did say, and it's been stated several times, this is kind of a pilot. This is an attempt to do a new policy. One of the things I think I can talk to the treasurer's office as it goes forward, and I can talk to the chamber about monitoring. Do we need to adjust that to require driver's license? Is that going to be relevant data? Are there other things that we think we need going forward? I mean, so if we did something like this again, if it ever came up, we could modify the requirements to make sure all those things are happening. So
would it be better to hold off and revisit that if you come back and discover that there's some things other than this to put in?
I am saying no matter what, no matter what as we implement this program, we will monitor things like that going forward 100%. I can talk to the chamber and say, hey, is driver's license changing an issue? It may not even be an issue. It may be something that everyone does anyway. So I'm just, we can certainly include this or other concerns of things that I can talk to the chamber about, just following up. What does a relocation program look like? Because if we do a second one, we'll probably tweak it to work better going forward, just no matter what, on technical issues.
Well, you saying that, then I'll withdraw my second.
I was just going to say too, like, I think there's two flaws in that. One is, well, most people have a driver's license. Not everybody has a driver's license. And two, we talk a lot about, getting out of the way of business. Like, these are businesses that know they want to take care of our community, and they're not going to hire somebody that's a criminal, somebody that's illegal. They're going to follow the law, and I think we should let businesses do what they do best, which is run their business and not get in the way and tell them that the obvious, which is they got to follow the law.
Yeah, and you're right about the driver's license. I should have worded it as the document that they use to hire the person. So whether that be an ID, a passport, or driver's license. I mean, if they're going to hire somebody, they need some sort of ID.
Well, I think full well they'll do background checks and they'll make sure of the person. They're not going to hire somebody.
Yeah,
that
they
doesn't
care
qualify.
about our community. Just let them make these decisions.
Yeah, I agree with that. Ron, was you going to say something?
Yeah, let's get the government out of the road here, and
Yep.
let's just do it like we always do.
What do you mean we're inserting the government here?
We're
not
already,
getting any of the
we're
government
already
out of
set.
anything. We're
Mr.
inserting the
Bogner, you
government.
got a quick comment? You pushed your button.
It's handled by law already.
Yeah.
This issue is handled by law already.
Yeah, it is.
If they get caught doing the things John's talking about, they're subject to the law that's already in effect.
No, I was talking
We
about
don't
them
have to
changing their.
create new law.
No, I was just talking about them changing their ID to Reno County as proof that they moved here. That it had nothing to do with anything else than that.
Okay, motion had passed. I don't think we have any further comments. Let's move into monthly reports. Oh, consent agenda, that's right. I forgot we passed that by. Yeah, we better. Item 6, consent agenda.
Thank you, John. Again, I've been doing pretty good yet. Move to approve consent agenda as provided by staff.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Friesner. Any comments quickly? If none, let's take roll call.
Commissioner Hurst,
Yes.
Commissioner Friesen,
I just leave
Yes.
it on. That way I'm in trouble.
Commissioner Weitzel,
Yes.
Commissioner Bogner,
Yes.
Commissioner Parks.
You betcha. Passes 5-0. All right, let's move on to 8, monthly reports. You got 2 minutes. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. There's lunch coming. I'm kidding you, Randy.
Monthly reports are in the packet from AG, Public Transportation, Appraiser, Automotive, the Clerk, Community Corrections, Communications, the District Attorney, and Emergency Manager. Any questions on anything in their report? Okay. The only other thing I had, just letting you know, on the HPO, Higher Performing Organization training that you guys approved a couple months ago, the first training will begin on April 29th and 30th. So the first 40 employees will be going through that leadership training at the end of this month. That's all I have.
From the left to the right. Any commissioner comments?
None, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Bogner?
I can't think of anything that I want to convey right now.
Okay. Commissioner Hurst?
Just the fact that some of us will be going to the KCCA meeting in Emporia, and when the commissioners get an opportunity.
Pittsburgh.
I mean, in Pittsburgh, excuse me. Yeah, I'm going to the wrong city. But commissioners get a chance to go
He
to
might
some of
see
these
him,
things. They really need to go to attend one or two of them. It's a networking is worth a lot. And whatever else I got to say, I'll wait till next time.
Commissioner Weitzel?
All right, so we've got a city county meeting right after this that is a public meeting. Where's the location of this?
Right.
Okay, so it's going to be here, so everybody's welcome to stay if they would like. So I think it did more good than not, so I didn't say anything. I figured I would save this to my comments in the end. On the week of the young child proclamation, I did want to insert that children are much better off with parents in early life than going to a daycare or something like that. I mean, some people can't help it. I was a single dad, and my child had to stay with people. Fortunately, I was able to find people at the church that I knew to watch him. But I mean, sometimes it can't be helped. But I would say, if you can make the sacrifices with your children at a young age and make sure one parent is at home with them, I think that's much better for the child, and the research proves that out. And then the high quality childhood education. I've just got to talk on this because it's brought up in so many documents, and they all point to the same one instance, the Perry Preschool Project in the 1960s, that show that there was success in a preschool program beyond the third grade. I've not seen a single study other than that proves that these programs are good for anything other than kindergarten readiness, but they are not good for long-term success. And in fact, some studies say that these preschool programs actually harm academic development. I mean, those studies again are I mean, they're more plentiful than the Perry Preschool Project, but they're not the norm. So I mean, if possible, if you can make the sacrifice, I know my wife and I are looking at having another child, and if we do, we will make the sacrifice. We'll move down to one car and do the things that we have to do to make sure that she can stay home with her child. And so if that's something you can do, I would encourage you to do that. But if not, then we do need to have those options available in the county for people.
Thank you, John. Appreciate that. I really don't have comment at this time. I appreciate everybody being at the meeting and all the comments, and obviously duly noted, we appreciate all the heartfelt that was put out here today from all these issues, and so we will take all of that into consideration. So thank you again so very much for being here. And I think with that, we'll adjourn the meeting.